Ladies and gentlemen, want to understand the subtle yet powerful qualities that make some women truly unforgettable? This video will reveal the fascinating psychological underpinnings of deep attraction, breaking down the intrinsic traits that cultivate an irresistible presence. Discover to identify and cultivate the magnetic aura that draws people in, creating a lasting impact. The magnetic aura of an unrivaled woman is not an external ornament, nor does it rest upon fleeting notions of beauty that societies have tried to define for centuries. It is not the symmetry of the face, the elegance of clothing, or the glamour of presentation that generates this rare presence. Rather, it originates from within, from the subtle union of psychological integration, nervous system coherence, and lived experience that expresses itself through every gesture, every tone, and every silence. The unrivaled woman draws others not because she conforms to an image, but because she embodies an essence. People sense in her something stable and whole, a resonance that goes far deeper than the surface. At the unconscious level, every individual carries archetypal patterns, energies associated with the nurturer, the warrior, the visionary, and the sage. Most live with these forces scattered, pulled in different directions, leading to inner conflict and fragmentation. The unrivaled woman, however, learns to integrate these parts of herself. She does not reject her tenderness to prove strength, nor suppress her ambition to preserve harmony. She allows the warrior and the nurturer to stand side by side within her. This integration fosters a psychological wholeness that others instinctively sense. Human beings are wired to detect coherence. When someone embodies it, we are drawn to them as though to a magnetic field. This coherence is not merely a psychological phenomenon. It is written into the body. The state of one's nervous system is revealed in posture, breath, voice, and eye contact. When fear and insecurity dominate, the body leaks signals of tension, shallow breathing, restless gestures, averted eyes. But when self-alignment replaces fear, physiology reorganizes. Breathing deepens, the voice steadies, and the gaze anchors with calm intensity. These changes are subtle yet undeniable, and they are read unconsciously by those around her. The unrivaled woman does not need to declare her power. Her biology broadcasts it in ways others can feel but rarely name. Another layer of her aura comes from clarity of purpose. A woman who knows why she walks the path she walks emanates a different kind of energy. Purpose is not simply an intellectual conviction, but an embodied direction that guides behavior, speech, and relationships. This alignment generates coherence between thought, word, and action, and human beings are naturally drawn to such integrity. People may not always agree with her, but they cannot ignore her, for they sense that her actions emerge from a deep and unshakable source. This gravitational pull is not dominance, but resonance, the resonance of someone who moves with certainty. Yet no aura of this magnitude is formed in ease alone. Life inevitably delivers struggle, betrayal, and hardship. For many, these experiences break the spirit or calcify the heart, but the unrivaled woman transforms her wounds into wisdom. Each scar, instead of diminishing her, becomes a seam of strength woven into her presence. When others stand before her, they do not sense perfection, they sense depth. They recognize someone who has encountered chaos and returned with treasure. This is why her aura feels grounding, for she has proven to herself that she cannot be destroyed by adversity. Such magnetism cannot be faked or imitated. Performance may capture attention for a moment, but it cannot sustain a connection. The aura of an unrivaled woman is cultivated slowly, in silence, in choices made when no one is watching. It grows each time she chooses honesty over pretense, essence over image, wholeness over perfection. It is refined in solitude and revealed in presence. When she enters a room, it is not performance that others feel, it is alignment. Every woman carries within her the potential for this magnetic aura. It is not the privilege of a chosen few, nor is it dependent on age, appearance, or social standing. It begins the moment she ceases to mold herself for approval and instead turns inward to embody her truth. When she allows her contradictions to coexist, when she steadies her breath, when she reclaims her scars as part of her strength, she steps into a presence that no external measure can rival. The aura of such a woman acts as more than attraction. It becomes a mirror. Those in her presence feel invited into their own authenticity. Her radiance awakens in others the remembrance that they, too, are whole beneath the fractures. This is why the aura of the unrivaled woman lingers, why her presence is not easily forgotten. It is not only that she is magnetic, it is that she calls forth the hidden magnetism in others. Archetypal energies are not inventions of the imagination, nor are they mere poetic ideas passed down through culture. They are universal patterns embedded in the human psyche, ancient blueprints that guide the way we perceive ourselves and others. To understand the magnetic aura of unrivaled women, one must first understand how these energies flow through them and how they learn to integrate them into their being. The archetypes exist in everyone, but what sets certain women apart is the way they allow these forces to coexist without suppressing or fragmenting them. Take, for instance, the archetype of the nurturer. It represents care, compassion, the instinct to protect and heal. In its raw form, it can be selfless to the point of self-neglect, pouring energy outward until nothing remains within. Balanced, however, the nurturer becomes a source of warmth and grounding, the kind of presence that stabilizes any environment. In the unrivaled woman, this energy is alive but not exploited. She can give without erasing herself. She radiates care that feels authentic because it is not born of desperation but of wholeness. Alongside the nurturer lives the archetype of the warrior. This energy is fierce, protective, and willing to fight for values and boundaries. When fragmented, it can harden into aggression or collapse into passivity, but when integrated, it creates the ability to stand firmly without cruelty. The unrivaled woman does not reject her warrior out of fear of appearing too harsh, nor does she let it consume her until she becomes rigid. She wields this energy with precision, demonstrating that strength and kindness can flow from the same center. Others sense this balance in her, feeling both safe and challenged in her presence. The visionary archetype is another essential strand. This energy is tied to imagination, foresight, and the ability to perceive patterns where others see only chaos. The visionary lives in symbols, in dreams, in the capacity to connect the ordinary to the eternal. Left unchecked, this energy can dissolve into fantasy, detaching from reality and action. But when grounded, it allows the unrivaled woman to see possibilities others cannot. Her aura glows with an air of depth, as if she walks not only in the present moment, but also carries the wisdom of future horizons. This makes her compelling to those around her, who sense that she perceives life through a lens of meaning they may only glimpse. There is also the archetype of the sage, the one who embodies reflection, discernment, and knowledge. This energy can, in isolation, turn into cold detachment or endless analysis. Yet, when it merges with the others, it provides clarity and perspective. The unrivaled woman channels her sage not to distance herself from others, but to illuminate their paths with insight. People find themselves drawn to her words her silences, and even her gaze, because they carry the weight of considered understanding. These four archetypes, the nurturer, the warrior, the visionary, and the sage, do not exist as separate masks, but as interwoven threads. In many lives, they compete for dominance, creating inner conflict. A woman may suppress her warrior to appear agreeable, or abandon her visionary to remain practical, or silence her nurturer to avoid vulnerability. The result is fragmentation, a life lived in partial expression. The unrivaled woman, however, refuses this division. She allows contradiction, she embraces polarity, and in doing so, she creates a harmony that feels rare. This harmony is not about blending everything into sameness, but about allowing each archetype to contribute its distinct energy to the whole. The magnetism that others feel in her presence is the product of this integration. At an unconscious level, people recognize wholeness when they encounter it. It registers in subtle physiological ways. They feel calmer in her presence, more focused, sometimes even unsettled, because her coherence mirrors back the places where they themselves are divided. It is not charm in the shallow sense, but resonance at the deepest level. Her aura is the signal of a psyche that has reconciled its inner forces, and the human nervous system, wired to detect safety and authenticity, cannot help but respond. This does not mean the unrivaled woman lives without conflict or shadow. On the contrary, she is aware of her shadows and has faced them with honesty. Her warrior has raged, her nurturer has overgiven, her visionary has drifted too far, her sage has judged too harshly. But instead of rejecting these mistakes, she has folded them back into her being, learning from each imbalance until balance became possible. This is why her presence feels seasoned, as though life itself has tested and tempered her into a form that radiates depth. Archetypal energies, then, are not fixed roles but living currents. They shift, expand, and contract depending on the context of life. What makes the unrivaled woman magnetic is her refusal to cling to one identity while rejecting others. She is not only soft or only strong, not only wise or only imaginative. She is a living paradox, and it is this paradox that generates fascination. To those who meet her, she feels like a complete spectrum of human potential condensed into one individual. This is why she is not easily forgotten. When others encounter such a woman, they are not just meeting her individuality, they are encountering the archetypal forces she embodies. She becomes, in a sense, a mirror for the collective psyche, a reminder of the richness that lies within all. Her aura does not say, "I am extraordinary and you are not." Rather, it communicates, "I have woven together what you too carry inside." This subtle transmission awakens something in others, a call to begin their own integration, to step into their own wholeness. That is the true power of archetypal energies when they are embodied fully. They transform not only the individual, but everyone who comes into their orbit. The unconscious projects authenticity in ways that most people are not aware of, yet everyone responds to. When someone is aligned with who they truly are, when the fragments of the inner self have been acknowledged and reconciled, the body and mind reflect it outwardly without effort. The tone of the voice, the rhythm of the breath, the steadiness of the eyes, the way shoulders rest naturally without tension, these are signals that bypass conscious judgment and are received directly by others at a primal level. Human beings are wired to detect coherence because, in evolutionary terms, it has always been a marker of safety, trust, and leadership. When a woman has integrated the many aspects of herself into a whole, Her very presence becomes an announcement of that wholeness. She does not need to insist on it, because the unconscious broadcasts it more powerfully than words ever could. This is why those who attempt to imitate confidence without actually cultivating it appear unconvincing. The unconscious betrays the mask, leaking signals of unease through micro-expressions, restless movement, or a tone of voice that strains to sound assured. People may not consciously register these details, but they feel the dissonance. In contrast, a woman who has done the inner work to align her psyche does not need to manufacture authority or charm. Her unconscious projects it seamlessly, and others resonate with it instantly. This is what creates the aura that feels magnetic, the sense that she carries a harmony others long to experience within themselves. The body is the stage on which the unconscious performs, and the nervous system is the director that shapes the performance. When someone lives in chronic self-doubt, comparison, or fear, the sympathetic branch of the nervous system dominates. Breathing becomes shallow, heart rate quickens, posture folds inward, and the gaze becomes unstable. These cues reveal an inner state that is fragmented, uncertain, or defensive. When self-alignment has been reached, the parasympathetic system balances the body, grounding breath, softening the muscles, and allowing presence to expand outward rather than contract inward. People unconsciously perceive this regulated state as confidence and calm. They lean toward it because it signals safety, strength, and authenticity. Authenticity is not perfection. In fact, the unconscious projects authenticity most powerfully when imperfection is embraced rather than hidden. A woman who pretends to be flawless feels distant, almost artificial, while one who owns her struggles and integrates them into her story radiates something deeply human. Others sense that she is not presenting a curated image, but living from her essence. This honesty resonates with the unconscious of those around her, for the human psyche recognizes truth instinctively. It may not be a truth free of scars, but it is a truth that carries depth, and that is what makes it magnetic. Purpose also finds its way into the unconscious projection. When someone knows why they do what they do, this direction saturates their posture, tone, and choices. It is not that they repeat their mission constantly, but that their alignment with purpose shapes the way they move through life. Others feel this coherence even without hearing it described. A woman who walks with purpose unconsciously communicates certainty, and certainty has always attracted followers, allies, and respect. This is not the certainty of arrogance, but of alignment, a gravitational pull that others feel without knowing why. Resilience contributes another layer to the unconscious signal. When hardship is denied or hidden, the body often reveals the tension of unprocessed wounds. But when suffering is acknowledged, endured, and integrated, the unconscious projects strength without defensiveness. A woman who has faced betrayal, failure, or loss and still stands whole carries an aura of unshakable depth. People may not know her story, but they feel its imprint in her presence. They sense that she has walked through fire and returned with wisdom, and that silent transmission is more magnetic than any declaration of survival. The unconscious, then, is not simply a hidden chamber of the mind. It is a transmitter, constantly broadcasting signals about the inner truth. When alignment is achieved, those signals create resonance in others. They calm the anxious, inspire the hesitant, and challenge the complacent. The unrivaled woman does not consciously manipulate this process. It flows naturally from her integration. She is magnetic, not because she tries to be, but because her unconscious projects coherence, depth, and authenticity into the atmosphere around her. Those who encounter her may not understand why they are drawn, but they cannot deny the pull. Body language, voice, and gaze are not ornaments added to communication, but the direct reflection of the nervous system and the psyche beneath it. Every gesture, every inflection, and every glance carries information that others absorb instantly, often before a single word has been spoken. This is why the aura of an unrivaled woman is not a performance she constructs, but a presence she embodies. Her body language is not designed to impress. It flows out of the integration within. When her inner world is aligned, her shoulders settle naturally, her movements are deliberate rather than frantic, and her gestures seem to fit the rhythm of her speech without effort. This sense of congruence, the seamless connection between inner state and outward expression, is what draws others into her field of presence. People may not analyze it consciously, but they feel that her body speaks the same truth her words carry. The voice is equally powerful as a transmitter of the state. It carries not only language, but tone, resonance, and subtle variations that reveal far more than the content of speech. When insecurity or inner conflict dominates, the voice strains, pitches higher, or races ahead of breath. The listener may not register these cues directly, but they instinctively sense nervousness or unease. When a woman has cultivated alignment, her voice deepens into steadiness. It does not need to be loud to command attention, because the coherence of her tone anchors the listener's nervous system. Rhythm and pauses are used not as manipulation, but as natural expressions of her inner calm. Her voice resonates because it originates from breath that is grounded, from a mind that is focused, and from a self that is not at war with itself. This resonance is one of the strongest contributors to the aura that feels magnetic, because humans have always responded to voices that embody confidence and certainty. The gaze is perhaps the most immediate and primal of all. Eye contact is a direct channel into the nervous system, and it communicates authenticity more rapidly than any other form of expression. An averted or restless gaze suggests fragmentation or avoidance, while eyes that remain steady without aggression signal presence and openness. The unrivaled woman does not stare to dominate, nor does she withdraw to hide. Her gaze is anchored in calm awareness. Those who meet her eyes feel both seen and acknowledged, often in a way that is rare in daily interactions. The gaze reveals her attention, and attention is one of the most powerful currencies of human connection. When people feel genuinely seen, their nervous system registers safety and recognition, and they are drawn toward the one who offers it. Body language, voice, and gaze are not isolated elements, but work in synchrony, each reinforcing the signals of the others. When a woman moves with grounded gestures, speaks with resonance, and looks with steady presence, the combined effect is coherence. This coherence is deeply compelling because it is so rare. Many people move, speak, and look in fragmented ways, with each channel betraying a different message. A confident posture paired with a strained voice, or a warm tone paired with an evasive gaze. Others sense the dissonance and respond with mistrust, even if they cannot articulate why. The unrivaled woman, by contrast, embodies alignment across these channels, and the nervous systems of others register her as trustworthy, magnetic, and whole. What makes this even more powerful is that none of these signals can be faked for long. A forced posture eventually collapses, a feigned voice reveals strain, and a gaze meant to imitate confidence flickers under pressure. Authenticity cannot be counterfeited because the unconscious projects truth continuously. The aura of an unrivaled woman, then, is not a technique she learns, but the natural consequence of integration. Her body language flows from the confidence of knowing her worth. Her voice resonates with the calm of someone not performing, and her gaze carries the clarity of a mind not divided against itself. People are drawn to her because these signals touch something ancient within them. For millennia, humans have depended on reading body language, tone, and gaze to evaluate safety, leadership, and trust. These cues bypass rational analysis and register directly in the body of the observer. When they encounter someone whose signals are coherent and grounded, they feel a pull toward that presence, even if they cannot explain it. The unrivaled woman does not chase attention. Attention flows to her naturally, because she embodies the rare alignment of inner state and outer expression. Self-alignment regulates the nervous system in ways that can be felt both internally and externally. When the inner world is divided, when there is conflict between who one is and who one pretends to be, the body carries that division as tension. Breathing becomes shallow, sleep becomes restless, muscles contract, and the mind loops in cycles of doubt and distraction. This fragmented state activates stress responses as if the body is always preparing for danger, even when no danger exists. It becomes difficult to rest, to connect, and to focus because the nervous system is on constant alert. Yet when alignment is achieved, when actions, values, and identity converge, the nervous system reorganizes itself into a state of balance. Breathing slows and deepens, heart rhythms stabilize, digestion improves, and the body no longer wastes energy in silent battles within. Alignment is not only a psychological state, but a physiological reality that regulates the very systems that keep life in motion. The nervous system is designed to detect congruence between inner states and outer behavior. When there is coherence, the parasympathetic system is given space to activate, allowing calm, recovery, and restoration to flow naturally. A woman who is aligned with herself does not need to force calm. Her body generates it as a consequence of integration. This calmness then radiates outward as a signal, shaping the way she is perceived by others. Those who encounter her may feel their own bodies begin to relax, their breathing unconsciously sinking to hers, their tension softening without effort. This is the phenomenon of nervous system resonance, where one regulated state invites others into alignment. Her aura becomes magnetic not through performance, but through the transmission of regulated energy that others instinctively seek out. Alignment also frees the nervous system from the constant burden of suppression. When someone hides their true emotions, desires, or identity, the nervous system must work overtime to contain what is unexpressed. This containment shows up as stiffness in posture, hesitation in speech, or the subtle exhaustion of carrying an inner weight. Over time, the body interprets this as a chronic threat, flooding the system with stress hormones that erode vitality. In contrast, when a woman expresses herself authentically, even in imperfection, the nervous system no longer wastes energy on suppression. Her movements loosen, her breath deepens, and her vitality increases because energy is no longer bound in secrecy. This freedom is sensed by others as aliveness, and aliveness is inherently magnetic. Self-alignment also creates clarity of focus. The nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for signals of safety or threat, and when a person is fragmented, this scanning is heightened, producing anxiety and distraction. The mind jumps between possibilities, replaying past mistakes and anticipating future failures, unable to stay present. Alignment brings the nervous system into balance, allowing attention to settle. A woman who is aligned can focus her gaze, her voice, and her energy on the moment before her, and this concentrated presence has a powerful effect. People feel seen in her attention, and this experience of being truly noticed generates trust and attraction. Her nervous system, regulated through alignment, allows her to offer the kind of presence that others crave but rarely encounter. The benefits of alignment extend into resilience. Stressful events, conflict, or failure inevitably activate the nervous system, pushing it toward fight, flight, or freeze responses. But when alignment has been cultivated, recovery from these states is faster. The body recognizes that while challenge exists, the self is not divided. There is no additional burden of inner conflict to complicate the stress response. The unrivaled woman can experience anger without being consumed by it, can feel fear without collapsing, can endure loss without shattering. Her nervous system bends but does not break, and this resilience is sensed by those around her. Others may not understand the mechanics, but they perceive her as someone unshakable, someone who carries a grounded energy that does not falter under pressure. What emerges from this regulation is a presence that feels both calming and invigorating. People who interact with someone in self-alignment often report feeling more themselves in her presence, as if their own nervous system has been invited into balance. This is because alignment does not isolate, it resonates. The magnetic aura of an unrivaled woman is not only about her own state, but the way her state shapes the environment. Rooms feel different when she enters, conversations deepen, silences grow more meaningful. The nervous systems of others pick up on her coherence and respond by seeking their own equilibrium. It is as if her alignment creates a field that extends beyond her body, a subtle but powerful influence on the collective atmosphere. This is why self-alignment cannot be reduced to a personal achievement alone. It is relational, shaping the way others experience themselves in connection to her. People are not drawn to her simply because she appears confident, but because her regulated nervous system gives them a taste of coherence they yearn for. Her aura, then, is the outward expression of inner harmony, a signal that she is not at war with herself. In a world where fragmentation is common, such harmony stands out as rare, and rarity always attracts attention. The unrivaled woman becomes magnetic not through strategy, but through the natural power of self-alignment, regulating the very system that governs life. Purpose creates coherence in ways that are both subtle and profound, affecting not only the psychological structure of a person, but also the physiological and social systems that surround her. When someone moves through life without clarity, choices are made reactively, often guided by immediate desires, external pressures, or unconscious impulses. The nervous system remains on alert, scanning for threats and opportunities alike, because there is no central organizing principle to stabilize attention and energy. In contrast, a woman who knows her purpose aligns thought, action, and intention in a way that naturally organizes her inner and outer life. Purpose becomes the gravitational center around which all behaviors orbit, allowing even complex and seemingly chaotic circumstances to flow with coherence. Her decisions feel deliberate, her priorities clear, and her energy focused. Others unconsciously register this coherence and respond with trust, admiration, and attraction, even if they cannot articulate why. At a neurological level, purpose functions like a compass that guides attentional systems in the brain. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, decision making, and regulating emotion, integrates signals from the limbic system and other brain regions to produce coherent behavior. When a person is unclear about her direction, the prefrontal cortex struggles to organize conflicting signals from emotion, instinct, and social cues, leading to hesitation, overthinking, or scattered energy. When purpose is defined and internalized, the prefrontal cortex becomes a stabilizing force, filtering distractions, prioritizing meaningful goals, and aligning actions with values. This alignment is not merely cognitive. It is embodied in posture, gait, and even the subtle rhythm of speech. A woman walking with purpose moves differently. Her steps carry confidence, her gestures are measured, and her presence exudes coherence because her nervous system is organized around a clear internal directive. Purpose also enhances resilience, creating a framework in which challenges and setbacks are interpreted not as chaos but as information. When adversity arises, a woman with clarity of purpose can filter her emotional responses through the lens of long-term meaning. Frustration, fear, or grief are acknowledged without overwhelming the system because the nervous system has a stabilizing reference point in the form of purpose. She does not react impulsively to every stressor, but responds with intentionality, turning disruption into opportunity and conflict into insight. This capacity for adaptive response amplifies her magnetic presence, because those around her sense that she is grounded in something larger than transient circumstances. The coherence generated by purpose is also deeply relational. Humans are social creatures, and the signals of alignment and intention are transmitted to others through micro-expressions, body language, and vocal tone. A woman whose actions, words, and energy are consistent with her purpose projects a kind of gravitational pull that attracts cooperation, trust, and connection. Others unconsciously mirror her clarity, experiencing an implicit invitation to align their own intentions and actions. In social settings, her presence creates a field of coherence, where conversations gain focus, collective energy sharpens, and moments of insight are more easily reached. This is why a woman moving with purpose often appears not only magnetic but transformative. Her alignment radiates outward and subtly organizes the environment around her. Purpose also interacts dynamically with authenticity. When purpose is aligned with one's true self, rather than external expectations, coherence is amplified. A woman pursuing goals that resonate with her inner values exhibits energy and commitment that others can perceive at a subconscious level. In contrast, when purpose is borrowed or imposed, coherence is fragile. Discrepancies between desire and action produce tension, micro signals of uncertainty, and ultimately a weakening of presence. Alignment between purpose and authenticity is what generates the deep magnetic aura that draws attention naturally, because it signals integrity and the absence of internal conflict. At an emotional level, purpose stabilizes effective responses. Emotions no longer hijack attention indiscriminately, rather, they are integrated and interpreted through the framework of meaning. Joy, sadness, anger, and curiosity are filtered through the lens of purpose, producing a rhythm of expression that is harmonious rather than chaotic. This harmony is not constrained or artificial. It is an emergent property of alignment, appearing as calm confidence, measured enthusiasm, or steady focus. Others perceive this emotional coherence intuitively, responding with engagement, openness, and trust. Even the subtle aspects of presence, eye contact, gesture, voice modulation, are shaped by purpose. When the nervous system operates with a stabilizing reference point, movements that normally betray stress or distraction are minimized. The gaze becomes steady, the hands move with intention, the voice resonates with calm authority. All these signals, read unconsciously by observers, reinforce the magnetic aura. The woman's coherence is palpable not because she performs it, but because it is a direct product of internal organization. Purpose also enhances cognitive clarity. A mind oriented around meaningful goals processes information more efficiently, identifies patterns more accurately, and prioritizes solutions that align with overarching objectives. This cognitive coherence allows the woman to navigate complexity with ease, inspiring confidence in others who observe her problem, solving and decision making. Her aura is amplified by the sense that she is capable, deliberate, and consistent, a presence that others instinctively recognize as reliable and grounded. Ultimately, purpose functions as both a psychological anchor and a biological regulator. It organizes thought, emotion, behavior, and physiology into a coherent system that resonates outward. This coherence is the unseen force behind magnetism, the clarity, stability, and alignment that make her presence compelling and transformative. People are drawn not to the superficial, but to the signal of integration, the quiet power of someone whose inner and outer lives converge in harmony, producing a presence that is felt deeply, recognized unconsciously, and remembered long after she has passed from view. Purpose, when aligned with authenticity and fully embodied, creates a magnetic coherence that is simultaneously psychological, physiological, and relational, forming the core of the unrivaled woman's aura. Resilience transforms wounds into strength in ways that are often invisible to the outside observer, yet it profoundly shapes the aura of an unrivaled woman. Life delivers challenges, betrayals, failures, and losses that test the limits of endurance. Many people respond to these trials with withdrawal, bitterness, or attempts to mask vulnerability, but the truly magnetic woman engages with them differently. She faces her pain directly, acknowledges it without judgment, and allows it to teach her rather than define her. Each wound becomes a point of transformation, a seam through which strength, insight, and depth enter her being. This process is neither fast nor effortless. It requires repeated confrontation with discomfort, a willingness to stay present with emotions that are difficult or destabilizing, and the courage to integrate experiences that might otherwise fracture the psyche. In this way, resilience is not simply bouncing back. It is the active shaping of character through engagement with adversity, producing a depth that others sense instinctively. Psychologically, resilience functions as a process of integration. When a woman endures hardship and engages with it consciously, she converts what could have been fragmented energy into organized internal resources. A betrayal that might have led to distrust instead becomes discernment. A failure that might have produced shame becomes humility and insight. A loss that could have caused despair becomes wisdom and empathy. In essence, each wound is transformed into a tool for self-mastery, a piece of internal architecture that strengthens her inner foundation. Others perceive this strength in subtle ways, in the calm steadiness of her voice, the assuredness of her posture, the quiet authority in her presence. They may not know the story behind it, but they feel the consequence. A woman whose internal coherence has been tested and tempered by life itself. Resilience also operates biologically, shaping the nervous system in ways that amplify magnetism. Chronic stress from unresolved wounds typically activates the sympathetic nervous system, resulting in tension, shallow breathing, and heightened alertness that can leak into social interactions. Over time, this can manifest as visible anxiety, reactive behavior, or emotional volatility. By contrast, a woman who has developed resilience engages with stress in a way that allows her nervous system to regulate itself. The parasympathetic system, which governs recovery and restoration, becomes more accessible, allowing her body to remain composed even in the face of external pressures. Her breath deepens naturally, her movements are unhurried, and her expressions remain balanced. These physiological signals are absorbed unconsciously by others, who feel drawn to her steadiness and interpret it as calm strength and reliability. Emotional resilience further enhances her relational presence. When she experiences frustration, anger, or grief, she does not suppress or deny these emotions, but she processes them constructively. This allows her to express feelings in ways that are authentic yet controlled, neither overwhelming nor repressed. Her responses feel proportionate, measured, and wise, signaling to others that she is a safe presence, someone who can navigate complexity and tension without collapsing or lashing out. People are instinctively drawn to such emotional coherence because it signals both stability and empathy. In social environments, the woman's resilience produces a subtle gravitational effect. Her steadiness encourages others to lower their defenses and engage more openly, amplifying her magnetic influence. Resilience is also expressed through adaptability. Life's challenges rarely arrive in isolation, and the unrivaled woman learns to adjust without losing her core integrity. She can pivot in response to setbacks, absorb lessons from mistakes, and transform unexpected obstacles into opportunities for growth. This capacity for adaptive flexibility is central to her aura because it communicates competence and mastery without arrogance. Observers sense that she is capable not only of enduring difficulty, but of thriving in the midst of it, and this perception generates admiration and trust that are deeply magnetic. Another facet of resilience is the integration of shadow aspects of the self. Experiences of pain and failure often reveal hidden traits, fear, envy, or vulnerability that a person might otherwise reject. The magnetic woman confronts these shadows rather than denying them. She acknowledges her own limitations, mistakes, and internal conflicts, and she weaves them into the narrative of her being. This integration does not weaken her, it fortifies her presence because it demonstrates that she is whole and self-aware. People are drawn to this depth, sensing the authenticity and completeness that come from embracing rather than suppressing complexity. Resilience, when fully embodied, also interacts with purpose and alignment. A woman who has endured hardship and integrated it consciously can direct her energy toward meaningful goals with clarity and determination. Her past wounds no longer consume attention or create distraction. Instead, they enhance focus and provide perspective. This combination of learned strength, emotional stability, and purposeful action produces a presence that feels both grounded and inspiring. Others sense the synthesis of these elements in subtle, unconscious ways. In the rhythm of her voice, the steadiness of her gaze, the relaxed confidence of her posture. The magnetic aura is not manufactured. It is the emergent property of a nervous system, mind, and body that have been refined and tempered through experience. Finally, resilience transforms wounds into sources of empathy, enabling the woman to connect deeply with others. Her understanding of struggle allows her to listen, comfort, and guide without judgment. This relational depth enhances her aura because people are instinctively drawn to those who can mirror and contain their own complexity. Through resilience, she embodies a balance of strength and sensitivity, authority and approachability, depth and accessibility. Her aura becomes magnetic not because she seeks attention, but because the integration of adversity, emotional mastery, and embodied alignment communicates authenticity, stability, and wholeness to everyone who encounters her. Magnetism cannot be faked, because it is the product of alignment between inner reality and outer expression. No amount of performance, scripted behavior, or imitation can substitute for the energy that arises from a genuinely integrated self. People can detect incongruence instinctively, micro expressions, slight hesitations in movement, tonal inconsistencies in speech, and fleeting shifts in gaze all betray a disconnect between inner state and external presentation. The human nervous system is finely attuned to such signals, even if conscious minds fail to articulate why someone feels compelling or trustworthy. Attempts to manufacture magnetism are often exhausting because the body and mind must maintain a constant performance while suppressing authentic impulses. This tension leaks outward in subtle ways, and others sense it unconsciously, producing discomfort, suspicion, or disengagement rather than attraction or resonance. Genuine magnetism, in contrast, arises effortlessly because it is not a performance. It is the natural expression of coherence within. Authentic magnetism begins with self-awareness. A woman who embodies it understands herself deeply, her strengths, her vulnerabilities, her motivations, and her fears. She does not attempt to hide flaws, but integrates them into her identity, accepting them as part of a complex, evolving whole. This integration generates a sense of completeness that others perceive even without knowing her story. Her aura is magnetic because it signals authenticity, reliability, and a grounded presence. People are unconsciously drawn to this alignment because the human nervous system instinctively seeks coherence in social environments. We gravitate toward individuals whose internal and external states are congruent because such alignment historically signaled safety, competence, and trustworthiness. The impossibility of faking magnetism also stems from the biological basis of presence. Authentic energy manifests through the body in ways that are nearly impossible to imitate. Breath patterns, posture, micro-gestures, and even subtle changes in facial musculature reflect inner states. When someone is nervous, uncertain, or pretending, the body betrays it through tension, restricted breathing, and restless movement. In contrast, when a woman embodies alignment and purpose, her physiology naturally regulates itself. Breathing is steady and rhythmic. Movements are deliberate but relaxed and micro. Expressions align with intention. These cues are absorbed unconsciously by observers, who experience an intuitive pull toward her calm, coherent energy. This resonance is not a learned trick. It is a consequence of internal integration expressed through the nervous system and musculature. Magnetism cannot be faked because it is relational. It emerges in the interaction between self and others. When a woman is authentic, emotionally present, and fully engaged, her nervous system communicates this to those around her. People mirror her energy subconsciously. Their heart rate synchronizes with her rhythm, their posture softens, and their attention sharpens. This creates a subtle feedback loop in which the presence of alignment amplifies itself. Attempts to fake such relational energy fail because the feedback loop cannot be manufactured. Observers unconsciously detect the effort or tension behind inauthentic engagement, which breaks the resonance. Genuine magnetism, however, arises when the energy flows naturally, unimpeded by fear, pretense, or inner conflict. Emotional coherence further reinforces why magnetism cannot be faked. Individuals who have cultivated alignment can experience and process emotions without being overwhelmed or reactive. They express vulnerability and strength simultaneously, creating depth that others sense as authenticity. A woman who attempts to simulate confidence without emotional grounding may display cracks, micro expressions of fear, overcompensation in gestures, or tonal inconsistencies. Observers feel this dissonance at a subconscious level, which diminishes attraction or trust. Authentic magnetism, by contrast, comes from a mind and body that are regulated and present. The emotional state is congruent with external behavior, producing subtle cues of integrity that draw others in. Purpose amplifies authenticity and therefore magnetism because alignment between action and intention produces coherence. A woman moving in accordance with her values and goals radiates clarity that is impossible to mimic convincingly. People can sense whether someone is acting for superficial reasons or external approval versus internal alignment. When the motivation is authentic, presence flows naturally. Every gesture, every word, every glance carries intention, producing resonance. This cannot be faked because intention is filtered through the prefrontal cortex, limbic system, and autonomic nervous system simultaneously. Incongruence creates microtension that is inevitably transmitted outward. Finally, resilience solidifies authenticity, which in turn supports magnetism. A woman who has faced challenges and integrated her experiences develops an internal equilibrium that cannot be artificially manufactured. Her presence communicates that she has endured difficulty, learned, and emerged whole. Others unconsciously register this equilibrium as strength, reliability, and depth. Attempts to simulate such resilience fail because the nervous system cannot feign the physiological markers of recovered stress. Steady heart rate, calm breath, relaxed musculature, and coordinated micro-expression. Magnetism arises only when the inner and outer states converge, a convergence that is cultivated over time through self-awareness, emotional integration, purpose, and resilience. Magnetism, therefore, is an emergent property of alignment. It cannot be faked because it is the reflection of an integrated self expressed through body, mind, and relational energy. Any attempt at imitation is quickly perceived at the unconscious level, disrupting resonance and diminishing presence. True magnetism flows effortlessly from internal coherence, emotional mastery, embodied alignment, and purpose, creating a presence that draws others naturally and memorably. Wholeness over perfection is the foundation upon which the magnetic aura of an unrivaled woman is built. In a world that constantly rewards polished appearances, curated images, and carefully measured behavior, the pursuit of perfection often leads to fragmentation. To be perfect is to present only one facet of oneself while suppressing the rest, creating a tension between the internal reality and the external performance. This tension manifests in subtle ways: a rigidity in posture, a stiffness in expression, a hesitation in speech, a nervous flicker in the eyes. The nervous system, finely tuned to detect incongruence, picks up these micro signals instantly, transmitting them to observers even before any words are spoken. Wholeness, by contrast, embraces the totality of being, strength and vulnerability, confidence and doubt, clarity and confusion. It is not an ideal to chase, but a lived state of integration. When a woman embodies wholeness, her aura resonates because it is grounded in truth, not illusion. Others feel it intuitively, recognizing the coherence that arises from accepting every aspect of herself. Wholeness requires acknowledgement and integration of shadow aspects of the self, the hidden, uncomfortable, or socially discouraged traits that many attempt to deny. Fear, jealousy, anger, or insecurity are not signs of failure. They are part of the spectrum of human experience. The woman who embodies wholeness does not reject these qualities, but brings them into conscious awareness, allowing them to coexist with her strengths. In doing so, she achieves a balance that is rare and magnetic. Others sense that she is complete, not because she has eliminated flaws, but because she has reconciled them with her identity. This integration produces a subtle yet powerful presence, one that conveys stability, authenticity, and depth. The aura of wholeness attracts because it signals that she is not in conflict with herself, and the unconscious minds of others are drawn to coherence and alignment. Pursuit of perfection, in contrast, generates internal friction. When a woman tries to appear flawless, she engages in constant monitoring and self-correction. The body and nervous system respond accordingly. Tension accumulates in the shoulders and jaw, breathing becomes shallow, and micro-expressions betray effort and strain. Even minor discrepancies between the intended image and the actual state are detected unconsciously by others, undermining presence and trust. Wholeness, on the other hand, is effortless in its expression because it does not require constant management or performance. Energy is available for genuine engagement, for connection, and for action. The magnetic aura arises from this ease, from the freedom to be complete rather than to conform. Embracing wholeness also fosters resilience. A woman who values integration over perfection understands that mistakes, failures, and setbacks are part of growth. She does not collapse under them, nor does she feel compelled to hide them. Instead, she learns from every experience, folding lessons into her understanding of herself. Each challenge becomes a building block for strength rather than a stain on her identity. Observers sense this resilience, even unconsciously, because it manifests in calm presence, steady gaze, and consistent behavior. The aura of wholeness is inseparable from the ability to endure difficulty without fragmentation, producing a depth that draws admiration and trust. Wholeness also amplifies purpose and authenticity. When a woman accepts all aspects of herself, she can align actions with values without interference from shame, self-doubt, or the fear of judgment. Her intentions are clear, and her energy flows naturally toward meaningful goals. This alignment generates a gravitational pull. Others instinctively recognize clarity of purpose and coherence, and they are drawn to it. Wholeness enables a woman to move through life with a fluid, grounded presence that cannot be manufactured. Unlike perfection, which is static and performative, wholeness is dynamic and evolving, adapting to circumstances while maintaining internal integrity. Moreover, wholeness transforms relationships. When a woman embodies her complete self, she invites others to do the same. Her presence communicates safety and acceptance, encouraging authenticity in those around her. People do not feel judged or compared. Instead, they sense that their own complexities are recognized and reflected. This relational magnetism arises from integration rather than performance, from depth rather than polish. Her aura becomes a mirror for others, revealing the potential for wholeness within them and creating a deeply compelling resonance. At the physiological level, wholeness stabilizes the nervous system. Acceptance of self reduces internal conflict, lowers chronic stress responses, and allows the parasympathetic system to engage. Breathing becomes rhythmic, muscles relax, and energy is channeled efficiently into action and engagement. This internal coherence is perceived by observers at a subconscious level, reinforcing the magnetic presence. A woman who embodies wholeness radiates vitality, confidence, and calm simultaneously because her internal systems are aligned and free from the constant tension that perfectionism generates. Finally, wholeness over perfection cultivates timeless presence. While perfection is fleeting, tied to external standards and dependent on validation, wholeness is enduring. It is a state of being that carries across contexts, social interactions, and even generations. The magnetic aura of wholeness does not rely on recognition. It simply exists as an expression of integrated selfhood. Others are drawn to it because it communicates stability, authenticity, and the profound sense that she is complete, whole in mind, body, and spirit, and therefore capable of presence that resonates deeply with every person she encounters. Wholeness over perfection extends far beyond a philosophical idea. It is a lived, embodied practice that shapes how a woman inhabits the world and how she is perceived by others. The pursuit of perfection, while culturally celebrated, often comes at the cost of authenticity, presence, and connection. It demands constant vigilance over appearance, behavior, and perception, creating a subtle but persistent internal tension. Every expression, hesitation, or slip in speech becomes a reminder that the self is being managed rather than expressed. This tension is broadcast unconsciously to others, who sense the effort and the incongruence. Wholeness, in contrast, arises when a woman integrates every aspect of herself, the strengths, the vulnerabilities, the contradictions, and the shadows, into a coherent whole. It is not the absence of flaw, but the acceptance and mastery of complexity. This integration allows presence to radiate effortlessly, creating a magnetic field that draws others toward her naturally, not because she performs, but because she embodies authenticity. At the psychological level, wholeness is the alignment of all internal facets into a functional, integrated system. Strength and tenderness, assertiveness and empathy, clarity and intuition are not at war but coexist and inform one another. A woman who embodies this integration does not need to suppress parts of herself to fit external expectations. Her voice, gestures, and expressions carry the rhythm of a mind and body in harmony. She does not need to prove her worth or calibrate her presence to appeal to anyone, because her coherence emanates naturally. People sense this alignment unconsciously, recognizing that her internal world is stable and complete, which generates trust, fascination, and connection. The aura of wholeness communicates, "I am complete. You are safe to be present with me." This implicit message resonates deeply because the human nervous system is attuned to coherence. We are drawn to the stable, integrated presence of others and repelled by incongruence or tension. Wholeness also transforms how a woman engages with vulnerability. Where perfection requires hiding weakness, concealing failure, or masking uncertainty, wholeness embraces these aspects as intrinsic to the human experience. The woman who integrates vulnerability does not allow it to define her, but neither does she deny it. She acknowledges doubt, fear, and insecurity, then channels these energies into growth, reflection, and authenticity. Others perceive this transparency unconsciously, sensing that she is safe to engage with, that she is not performing a facade. This magnetic combination of strength and openness creates resonance at both emotional and physiological levels, because social and nervous systems respond positively to signals of authenticity and reliability. Her presence becomes compelling because it contains the full spectrum of human experience, balanced and integrated. Physiologically, wholeness stabilizes the nervous system, creating subtle signals that amplify magnetism. When a woman accepts all parts of herself, The parasympathetic system can engage more freely, allowing breath, posture, and energy to flow without restriction. Muscles relax, expressions align with emotion, and speech rhythms stabilize. These cues are read unconsciously by observers, producing an instinctive attraction and sense of trust. In contrast, the pursuit of perfection triggers chronic sympathetic activation, shallow breath, tight muscles, guarded gestures, and subtle tension in expression. These signs communicate effort, anxiety, or incongruence, undermining presence and diminishing magnetic pull. Wholeness, by allowing the body to align with the mind and emotions, generates presence that is effortless, authentic, and deeply resonant. Wholeness also fosters resilience in ways that perfection cannot. When a woman embraces her complexity, setbacks, failures, and conflicts become sources of growth rather than triggers of shame or anxiety. She can encounter adversity without fracturing her presence because her sense of self is anchored in integration rather than in external validation. Each challenge she faces becomes a seam in her development, a refinement that enhances depth and gravitas. Observers sense this resilience in her calmness, steady gaze, and unhurried movements. Her aura communicates competence and stability because it reflects a nervous system, mind, and heart that have been shaped by experience and internalized integration rather than superficial performance. At the relational level, wholeness over perfection creates magnetic influence by generating safety and resonance. People unconsciously mirror her coherence, adjusting their own physiology and attention to match her presence. This creates subtle alignment in social interactions, where conversation, energy, and attention flow with ease. Her authenticity invites others to show up fully, amplifying relational depth and connection. While perfection often intimidates, alienates, or imposes pressure, wholeness attracts, nurtures, and amplifies the potential of those around her. Her presence becomes a field of influence not because she controls or directs, but because she embodies stability, integration, and depth. Wholeness, then, is both an internal architecture and an external signal. It is the process of integrating the fragmented parts of self, accepting imperfections, harnessing vulnerabilities, and aligning with purpose. The magnetic aura that results is not manufactured. It is the natural outcome of coherence across mind, body, and spirit. Others are drawn to it unconsciously, sensing alignment, authenticity, and presence that cannot be replicated or faked. In a culture obsessed with appearance, performance, and perfection, wholeness represents a profound, enduring power. The presence of a woman fully realized, resilient, and complete in herself, radiating an influence that is felt long before it is understood. The unrivaled woman's aura acts as a mirror, reflecting to the world not just her own alignment, but the potential for wholeness in those who encounter her. It is not a mirror of superficiality, nor one that flatters. It is a mirror of depth, coherence, and authenticity. People sense it unconsciously before they even engage in conversation, drawn to the stability, resonance, and presence she projects. The aura communicates that she has navigated her inner landscape, reconciled contradictions, integrated shadows, and emerged with a nervous system, mind, and heart operating in synchrony. Others feel this resonance because it creates a subtle invitation to recognize and engage with their own inner coherence. It is magnetic because it does not demand attention. It awakens recognition of alignment in a world often dominated by fragmentation. When people encounter such a presence, their unconscious minds begin to register a different standard of engagement. Micro-expressions, subtle postures, and the rhythm of her movements communicate calmness and focus, which in turn encourage the nervous systems of those around her to align. People feel safer in her presence because her coherence signals stability, and humans are wired to respond to stability as a marker of trustworthiness. Simultaneously, her aura challenges observers, reflecting back the ways in which they themselves may be fragmented, reactive, or misaligned. This duality, the comfort of safety coupled with the challenge of reflection, creates an invisible magnetic field, pulling others toward her while simultaneously inviting them to engage in introspection. The mirror is never harsh. It simply presents truth without judgment, leaving individuals free to respond with curiosity, self-awareness, or transformation. The reflective quality of her aura extends into emotional resonance. When she expresses vulnerability, authenticity, or passion, it is not performative, it is embodied. Her emotional presence communicates that feeling is integrated rather than chaotic, that intensity can coexist with stability, that openness can exist alongside discernment. People unconsciously mirror these emotional cues, adjusting their own affective states to match hers. This is why a room can shift simply because she enters it. Tension eases, conversations deepen, and attention sharpens. Her aura becomes a subtle but pervasive influence, shaping not only how she is perceived, but how others experience themselves in her presence. At the cognitive level, her aura functions as a reflective surface for clarity and focus. When she listens, observes, or engages in dialogue, her attention is fully present, unfragmented by distraction or self-consciousness. The mind of the observer unconsciously synchronizes with hers, experiencing a sense of alignment, heightened awareness, and attentional clarity. This reflective effect encourages others to operate with increased focus, thoughtfulness, and discernment, because the presence of coherence stimulates similar patterns in their own cognitive processing. In this way, the aura is not merely a personal quality, but an active relational influence, shaping both emotional and cognitive states of those around her. The mirror quality also amplifies her relational magnetism. She does not need to dominate, charm, or manipulate interactions. The aura does the work. People are drawn because they feel seen, recognized, and reflected in their own potential. The reflection is subtle, often unconscious, but unmistakable. It is experienced as a pull toward depth, an intuitive sense that being in her presence offers an opportunity for alignment and authenticity. Her aura is magnetic because it awakens the observer's nervous system to resonance, safety, and possibility simultaneously. They sense that she operates from a place of integration, and in response, they unconsciously seek to mirror that coherence in themselves. Furthermore, the mirror aspect of her aura interacts with resilience. She has confronted adversity, integrated failures, and reconciled contradictions, and this internal work is projected outward. Observers feel not just the calm and coherence, but the implicit message that challenges can be navigated without fragmentation. Her presence communicates endurance, adaptability, and mastery of the self, and it is reflected to those around her as inspiration, reassurance, and implicit guidance. They see in her aura a model of what is possible when one embraces all aspects of self, integrates experience, and cultivates alignment across mind, body, and spirit. Physiologically, the mirroring effect operates at a preconscious level. Micro-expressions, subtle changes in posture, and rhythmic breathing patterns signal alignment and regulation to observers' nervous systems. Mirror neurons and other relational circuits allow those in her presence to sense coherence and safety instinctively. Even before a word is spoken, the observer experiences a subtle recalibration of their own physiological and emotional state. This is why her aura feels magnetic. It is a live reflection, a dynamic resonance, and a guidepost for coherence that others respond to instinctively, without thinking. Finally, the aura's reflective nature is not static, but dynamic. It shifts in response to context, social interaction, and emotional flow, continuously offering feedback and resonance to those around her. It is a living, interactive mirror, simultaneously demonstrating presence, coherence, and authenticity, while inviting others to engage with their own potential. The unrivaled woman's aura acts as a mirror because it embodies integration, reflection, and resonance, creating a magnetic field that is felt profoundly, recognized unconsciously, and remembered long after she has left the space.